All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Crew Show with a little 49er video as we're down here at Levi's on a Friday. John Lynch stopped by on KMBR this morning and we'll recap what he talked about. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. This video also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, on the Monterey Peninsula. Call my friend Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264. All right, let's talk about John Lynch. John Lynch stopped by this morning with Murph and Marcus on the KMBR morning show, and they touched on a number of different things. And the first thing was started with a little baseball. John's a San Diego guy, and he's a Padre fan, and he's excited about the playoff run that the Padres are going through. And he's geared up to see the Padres beat the Dodgers in the playoffs, and I think Giants fans can relate to that. He did say he pulls for the Giants, but he doesn't know Buster Posey. He's a fan of Farhan Zaidi's. He said he called him a very good human being, and you know, he mentioned that Buster Posey has reached out to him and would like to sit down and talk to John about, I'm sure, you know, transitioning from being a great player to being a great general manager, and John has done that. John was a Hall of Fame player, and now he is, according to, you know, a lot of the executives and coaches around the league, he's a top 3 general manager in the NFL right now. He also said that he mentioned that there are similarities between Buster Posey and Brock Purdy, and that they're, you know, guys that are great competitors, say and do a lot of the right things, and really strike the right chord. You know, then Lynch talked about, you know, how you have to kind of, to go and run a show, you have to kind of know the culture of that team. And he admitted that when he was a player, he really wanted to be a 49er as a player. And that, you know, he knew several players, from Keena Turner to Ronnie Lott and others. So he kind of knew the Niner culture. And his advice, you know, Murph asked him, hey, what advice would you have for Buster? And he's like, hey, you know, the culture that you create is about the quality of the people that you surround yourself with. And I think that's really well said. I mean, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. It's like, if you want to establish a culture at whatever business you're at, you want to make sure you surround yourself with high character people, people that embody the same characteristics and values that you value, and people that are going to work, you know, people that are really going to work and be devoted to the vision that you set forth as the general manager. So you're trying to create a culture, and to create a culture, it's all about people. And the Niners have created a great culture here, but it's all about the people. It's about the people they have in the organization. It's about the players that they've acquired. And Lynch admitted that, you know, that's really it. You know, the first thing that Buster's got to do as the general manager of the Giants is establish a culture and get quality people in every phase of the organization, on the field, off the field, players, executives. Surround yourself with outstanding people, and you will, you know, by osmosis, your culture will improve. He also credits the Niners scouting department for discovering, you know, guys like Brock Purdy and J.P. Mason and Juwan Jennings. The Niners are being led right now by Purdy, who was a 7th-round pick, Mason, who was an undrafted free agent, and Jennings, who was also a 7th-round pick. And he's like, you know, Lynch mentioned that all 3 guys are guys who have a never quit kind of an attitude. He also admitted that the Niners, you know, they listened to their scouts, and their scouts had good reports on Purdy and Jennings and Mason. And John emphasized again, you know, once again, you know, getting the right players in the draft. It's about getting the right skill set and the right players and the right talent, but it's also so much about getting the right people who are going to work and grind and have that never, you know, will never be defeated kind of an attitude. Murph also asked him about Devante Adams, you know, possibly coming to the Niners. Devante listed the Niners as one of the teams he would be willing to play for, and John just, you know, said, hey, you know, I'll never say never. You know, but we like our group of wide receivers. You know, he says we like our roster. We're always looking to improve, and we're never afraid to pull the trigger if there's a trade that's out there that can make us better. But the reality is they have Jacob Cowing, who they invested a 4th-round pick in. He hasn't gotten on the field. They have Ricky Pearsall, who's a 1st-round pick at wide receiver. He hasn't gotten on the field. Terrace Marshall, to me, looks like he could play. He's on the practice squad. He's not getting on the field. So do they really need a Devante Adams? Do they really need to trade for a 32-year-old wide receiver at this point? Probably not. To me, you know, there are other needs. Defensive end, defensive tackle, quickly come to mind. Potentially safety, running back. You know, they're pretty naked behind Jordan Mason. Do they need Devante Adams? No, they don't need Devante Adams. But John said, hey, we'll never rule anything out. If we thought he could improve our situation, if the price was right, if everything was right, we'd make it happen. So he wouldn't close the door completely on Devante Adams, but I don't think Devante Adams is coming to the Niners. They asked him about Brandon Ayuk and what he thinks of the way Ayuk has played after 4 games. And John said the same thing that I've been saying, which is, you know, Ayuk looks a little bit better every single week. You know, and then John also mentioned there's things that Brandon does for this team that really don't show up on the stat sheet. You're not going to see a stat for blocking, and he's a great blocker in the run game. And he's dogged in his determination to be a factor as a blocker in the run game. So, you know, he took the high road with Ayuk. He could have said, hey, he doesn't look like the player that he was last year. He could have said something. Instead, he said, you know, he's looking better every week, and he's encouraged by what he sees. He was asked about Brock Purdy and how Brock joked to the media that he's got a faster 10-yard split than CMC or Debo or, you know, Ayuk. And John said, I thought he thought that was funny. You know, he said that you know, that 154 10-yard split, that explosiveness that Brock has demonstrated in his ability to get away from the defensive players it was a trait that they knew he had, but it's been a pleasant surprise. His movement ability has been a pleasant surprise to the 49ers. I think they thought he could move, but they didn't think he could move as explosively and as well as he does move, and I think that's been a little bit of a surprise. Murph asked him, hey, you know, Fred Warner's dinged up. He's got an injury. Is he going to go this week? They play again on Thursday. And John mentioned the name Tatum Bethune, the 7th-round pick out of Florida State, and he called him a tackling machine. He also mentioned Jalen Graham and D. Winters and Devondre Campbell. The Niners now, with the addition of Graham, the reacquisition of Graham, if Winters is healthy, and if Bethune, you know, if they feel confident in Bethune, they got a bunch of different guys that they can go to. Now, Bethune doesn't move like Fred, but he's a very good tackler, and he takes tremendous angles. So I get the sense that Fred's not going to go in this game, that they're going to save him for Thursday. That's just a guess, but we'll find out more later today. Also, he was asked about Dre Greenlaw, and he said, hey, you know, it's a serious injury. He's not ready, but he's coming along. He's like, you know, he's a tone-setting player with his speed, with his violence, with his intensity. And there's no question, the Niners miss Dre Greenlaw. They miss the physical, violent tone that he sets as a defensive player. There's no question about that. John also was asked about the heat on Sunday. It is supposed to be 98 degrees on Sunday. So, you know, pack your sunscreen. If you got a mister, bring a mister. If you got any ways to beat the heat, bust them out, because this is going to be the hottest game in the history of this stadium. 98 degrees is what they're saying it's going to be at game time on Sunday for Niners Cardinals. So make plans for a very hot day, especially if you're in the sun. And if you're an older person and you're sitting on the sun side, maybe you want to give your ticket up this week, to be completely honest, and let somebody else sit out there and bake, because it is going to be a scorcher on Sunday. And the last thing they talked about was Ricky Pearsall. And John said, hey, you know, obviously Ricky was disappointed that he couldn't be up and playing this week, that he's doing great, that he's just not quite ready yet. He hasn't had any shoulder setbacks or any setbacks at all. He's just not quite ready yet. But they're really excited about the player that he is and what kind of contribution he can make when he does get healthy. All right, that does it for this video. John was really good as usual, and a lot of interesting nuggets there for sure. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. Thanks to Sharp Corners, sports cards and collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove. Call my friend Anthony Catania at 831-521-5264. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.